Ocsko. She has kindly accepted our invitation to be here the whole day. She's the coordinator of the Smart Villages Network, and she has recently been elected as vice chair of the Rural Pact Coordination Group, that, as you know, is the governance body that has around I think more than 30 members from different types of actors, from public authority. We saw the Vice Minister for Regional Development is the chair, to local action groups, to civil society organization, etc. So Edina, first of all, thank you very much for being with us the whole day. And we are very eager to hear what are the takeaways that you take from all the discussions with her today on two main aspects that are very important: access to funding and making sure there is we mobilize sufficient money for tackling all the needs at local level in rural areas. So the floor is yours, Edina.
Thanks a lot, Enrique, and thanks for the opportunity to listen to during this whole day, and also to share some final thoughts for this event. I know everybody is tired, so I will try to be quick, but I noted down a few things on a few slides, so if you're okay, I share those because it's easier to follow them.
Yes, just to make sure you have the co-host, right? You can share. Fantastic.
Okay. So really, just very quickly, I would like to reflect on three things that I picked up: the policy lab as a concept and the way we worked today, some ideas on some of the key messages, and maybe pointing towards the next steps, which I'm sure that all the participants will have some ideas on as well, as you were highlighting, Enrique. And I think you were all kind of listeners much more than I am, so I won't repeat what we listened to today. But maybe to start with the discussion within the policy lab. So firstly, my impression was that it's really, really great to see such a level of activity. I think it's very impressive what you said at the beginning, Enrique, that there was such an interest in this group, and you could see really many people being active and online whole day. I think it's also very inspiring to see all these practical examples. I was impressed by them, and I think we will follow up on some of them as well. And I also think that the topics that were identified, the governance and the coordination, as well as the synergies of funding and how to support overall rural communities, really, really relevant. But maybe two things to think about, or what I picked up from the discussion, whether we should also think of new ways or new forms of engagement of this group and beyond, of course. So for instance, the design thinking idea came up quite a few times. So to experiment with new ways to even make these things happen. And maybe to think a bit about new target groups as well. As I would like to quote Luis here, and I'm sorry if I miss some of the quotes, but really, I think it's quite important, and what was said by Pedro towards the end, like we have probably the right people telling stories and telling their experience here, but it's a big question if we don't have the right people listening, or all the right people listening, because I'm sure that you all can make a huge change in many of the areas, because you are working in the right fields, but maybe we need to mobilize new people. So that's a few thoughts on the policy lab. And then a few thoughts on the key messages. I think these practical examples that you all brought, I think it really shows it's possible. Sorry, and that's sometimes the key message for me from these things, that we often complain about regulation and why some things are not possible. But as Marine and others were saying just now, I think many things are possible. And I think these examples show that it is. And I think we really, really need to build on that experience. And I think that's what Chair Radim, who was introducing this meeting, always emphasizes as well, for instance, in terms of the multi-funding in Czechia. So we just really, really need to look at these examples in details, because they show it how. We heard a lot of very inspiring ones, tools at the EU level by GRC, how the simplified cost option works, how one-stop shops work, how capacity building is done by LEADER and beyond, and so on, and the different financing institutions and instruments. So I think it was extremely useful to hear those examples, and we absolutely need to explore them more. And also especially interesting to hear in some of them about the challenges and struggles that we obviously have to learn from. So, of course, the key thing which for me came up, and as being part of the Smart Village Network and supporting local communities, I think the focus on supporting local communities directly and people directly, it's absolutely some of the core ideas, and again, a lot of interesting ideas on that. So these are some of the hints that I picked up, because I think at the end of the day, it's really what is crucial, what Klaus was saying, to go down to the local level and support the local communities, because somehow the X is actually by accident at the end of the sentence. But it's really, the purpose is that we really get and reach down to the communities. So we need to get out of our bubbles. We need to talk directly to the local people. If it's over a beer, it's over a beer. And I think we heard a lot of good examples of engaging communities, and I just listed a few. Obviously, LEGs are the key player in many cases, if not all, maybe not all, but also there were a few regional level examples and national level examples that it showed that it's possible to start to engage and reach down to communities and provide them with the right information. I also feel that something new is starting to emerge in these discussions, in these Rural Pact policy labs, at the political policy level, which is something very valuable. So we saw these rural agendas, which are very inspiring. So something really happening more at the policy level as well. And especially, of course, the coordination of funds. And here I want to quote Barbara, who finished her presentation by saying that there is little funding left for what is not mandatory, and the coordination of funds is not mandatory, and it's often neglected in many contexts. But once again, I think we need to learn from this. And this just reminds me, actually, I brought this up. This was a drawing we prepared on smart villages many, many years ago, actually, at least 5 years ago, if not more, which was kind of representing the same idea that somehow the local communities shouldn't be bothered where the funding is coming from. There should be some kind of intermediaries who help to solve that question. They should just get this funding for their integrated approach. And I think that's what we are looking at. So just final thoughts, very final thoughts of what we could possibly do next, just 2 slides on that. I somehow feel that we need to move a gear up, if it's the right expression, I'm not sure, because these examples in practical terms are very, very inspiring, but in a way we are just scratching the surface, because I can see also from the chat that everybody is interested in the details. So I think it's either through the Rural Pact platform or in other forms. I think we need to go more in depth, maybe by the own effort, but really to learn from this. So to organize dedicated groups, maybe among the same stakeholders with the same roles, which we are also trying to do in our Smart Villages work. Also, I think what I hear is that we need to follow up on what's happening, because sometimes we have these meetings like this one, and we organize many meetings, but it would be very crucial to understand if the right people were sitting there listening, and if something started to move in policy, and who has improved their practices because of what they heard in such exchanges. And in that sense, I think we somehow need to reward change. I know, for instance, we heard from Tyrol today, multi-funded CLLD, but we know more and more people are organizations are stepping out of that. And we need to kind of reward those who hear these examples and make a move. And maybe related to that, the data collection, which I hear coming up a lot of times in terms of financing, loans, risk assessment, communication, the activities of the LEGs, and so on. So just to conclude, this is the final slide, and maybe a message to be left with you, that I personally feel there is a huge potential in the Rural Pact and policy labs like this and exchanges like this. I think it engages really many of the right stakeholders, even if it's not all who are the right ones listening, like you. I think it has a great potential to impact on politics and policy, such as the presidency conclusions that we heard about. And what I have to say, because we hear about it more and more of this idea, and I think we have to discuss this more in depth, whether it makes sense to have a dedicated rural fund and maybe an adapted EU institutional structure. I know everybody's saying it a bit of a care, but I think I hear those voices louder and louder towards the end of this session. So I would really suggest to have a deep, in-depth discussion within the Rural Pact Coordination Group and beyond about it. And I think we've got a huge opportunity here, because we are also hearing that planning and programming is starting now. So I think we have to take our chance with that opportunity. So thanks a lot. And sorry, I tried to tell it in a rush, but some takeaways from me. Thanks.
Fantastic, Edina. Thank you very much. Comprehensive report back. I think there is feedback here for everybody. Good takeaways from the meeting, good conclusions for us. So I really appreciate them. But now let's put again the focus as well on you guys. Ursula, my colleague Ursula, has been looking at the chat. I've seen that there has been many messages. So Ursula, would you like to just highlight 2, 3 that created a bit more the reactions, or some common topics, or something that you managed within this very little time that we had?
I would say there was one set of ideas about funding. We were talking about funding in the sense of one fund, idea of one common integrated fund, and with simplified rules. And for the simplification, there has to be many voices saying simplification for whom. So simplification both for the local people on the ground and for the implementation, but with the primary focus on people on the ground, for simplifying for them. And among the funding instruments that has been mentioned, LEADER as a very has been coming up as still very important instrument, a very useful one-stop shop. So that's one group of topics about funding. The second is about capacity building, and the capacity building was for the local people on developing the project. So not funding alone is not enough. Funding with capacity building, and the whole idea of different capacity building instruments, but also capacity building for the managing authorities, program authorities, for the people who take decisions about the framework. Also, that has been coming up. And the third is how to do it. And here I noted only 3 main keywords: bubbles, so no more bubbles or less bubbles, the innovation and trust. So this is how. So the funding we want to build capacity, and we want to have those 3 additional elements. That's what I picked up.
I'm gonna ask my colleague Pascal, the team leader, to tell us a bit what's in our agendas in the Rural Pact for the next months. We conclude today our first year of operation, animating the Rural Pact, and we are gonna recharge energy during the holiday season, and we come back with more energy and activities next year. So Pascal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Enrique. Thank you to all to be still with us. So concretely about the follow-up of the Policy Lab, the presentations will be available on the website quite soon, on the event page that you see on the screen, as well the participants list to encourage you for networking, the video recordings, plenary sessions, and the highlights report of the Policy Lab. And we are going to try to summarize all the inputs, as well yours, that you have put in the chat. So everything will be visualized in the report. It's also the occasion for us to remind you the existence of the Rural Pact Community Platform that you can consult, access whenever you want to get inspired, to get the news, the events, the good practices, news from other organizations, and also to invite you, as it has been already mentioned during today, to become a member of the Rural Pact, so you can access to the link which is on the screen. And we have already mentioned the community groups several times today. Also, so we encourage you to perhaps to think about creating a group or engaging with an existing group to exchange on several topics, the ones that have been mentioned today, but also other ones, so to exchange of of practices to learn from others, to contribute to a discussion. And for the member, for the moment, we have about 40 members part of the community groups. So you have a look here on the ones which are already existing and displayed on the website. Enrique mentioned already at the beginning of the day the publication of Making the Rural Pact Happen in the member states, which is the first policy briefing that the Rural Pact Support Office has developed recently. So this is an important publication that will be used, that will be multiplied by the different stakeholders. We invite yourself to multiply it in your countries. It has been recently translated in all EU languages. So it's about the key ingredients, how to make the Rural Pact happen in the member state. And the other publication, which is quite fresh, is a Rural Vision magazine, where you can find several experiences, projects, testimonies, activities of the Rural Pact Support Office that have been developed this first year. So we also encourage you to consider the Rural Vision magazine, and the link is also displayed on the screen. And about the next event, so it was the last event of the first year, let's say, of the Rural Pact Support Office, although we are already in our second year, early in our second year. So we have as well two policy labs in 2024, one which is in person and the other online. The first one is on translating the Rural Pact into action at local levels, which is important. We have already discussed that point today. And the other one will be online, and it's about rural areas in the policy agenda. We are not going into details at this stage, so the two dates are to be confirmed. It's part of our work program that we have, I would say, finalized recently and validated by the colleagues from the AGRI, and 3 good practice webinars, one on climate communities in rural areas, the other one, which would be in March, TBC as well, youth participation in rural areas, and improving rural mobility, also dates to be confirmed. And a very big event this year, I mean, by the end of this year, which is the Rural Pact Conference, which will be community oriented. So we try to encourage all key stakeholders, local stakeholders, including as well some regional and national, as well EU decision makers, but we want to focus on the community, and it will be an event about 450, up to 450 people to be confirmed as well. So these are for the next activities of the Rural Pact Support Office. Thank you, Enrique.
Okay, thank you, Pascal. I don't know if anybody else from this group would like to share any specific activity with colleagues that they are doing in relation to this topic, an event they would like to invite others. This would be the opportunity. You can also put it in the chat. And in the meantime, we are gonna listen to the closing words from the colleague from DG AGRI, Silvia, Nanni. Thank you for joining us today. So the final concluding words come from you to conclude this event.
Thank you very much. So I would like to thank you very much. This has been a very, very enriching day, especially online, and having you for the whole day. It's been very enriching to us, and we are certainly going to bring all these ideas, bold ones as well, which we really welcome. It's exactly a policy lab done for that reason, and we'll take them into account as we work, as the work starts, in fact, on the next cycle of EU policies that will reach the full speed, let's say, at after the EU elections next year. So we just wanted to give a few words on what are the next steps for the rural vision. We are working very actively within the Commission on a public report on the implementation of the vision and also on the way forward that we will publish in March 2024. And in that context, really the report for us is meant to convey a set of reflections on how to support further or enhance support for rural areas. We cannot clearly preempt, as we said in various working groups today, the discussion that will happen on the next programming period. And this will be, in fact, mostly once the new parliament will be elected in June, and then when the new commission also will be in place. However, we really welcome the discussion of the Policy Lab to really bring together all these ideas that we have received, not only from EU institutions, of course, we heard this morning the Spanish presidency, but also from you, from all of you as stakeholders of rural areas, and make sure that we can formulate the most important questions that are still to be addressed, in fact, in the months and years to come. And this event really fits into this process as well. We will, of course, bring all these discussions and these ideas into the preparation of the proposal for the post-2027 period in terms of funding for rural areas. So with this, I would like to thank you very much, all of you, all our speakers today, for really giving your time, your energies, your thoughts, your ideas to this very rich discussion. To Radim, to Edina, of course, all the members of the Rural Pact Coordination Group for the very active contributions they've given us this year, but also they will continue to discuss in the coming years as well. I would like to thank very much, of course, the Spanish presidency, all the institutions and the Commission services like the GRC this morning, but not only DG Regio colleagues, of course, and all the DGs that work with us. We got to 18 to work on the vision, which is really good for us. And also, of course, a warm welcome and thank to Enrique, to Ursula, to Pascal, and all the colleagues of the Rural Pact support office for doing really an excellent job in keeping us online for the one day with a very, very rich discussion. We are getting to the end of the year, so we also wanted to send you our greetings for the end of year, hoping that really you have a very good time during the holidays with loved ones, and of course in our beautiful rural areas across Europe. So thank you very much for your contribution. And indeed, we'll keep working together for rural areas. Thank you.